Welcome to this step-by-step explainer. Listen, have you ever been left completely high and dry by a flaky contractor? Or maybe had a landlord unfairly keep your security deposit? Or even had someone just flat out refuse to repay a loan? It can feel completely overwhelming. But you know what? You actually hold way more power than you might think. Today, we're going to totally demystify Colorado's small claims court system. We're going to give you the practical, step-by-step roadmap so you can confidently navigate the process and get the justice and, more importantly, the money that you absolutely deserve. Okay, let's just dive right into this. If you are struggling to recover an unpaid debt, a withheld security deposit, or maybe property damages under $7,500, you really need to know about this tool. Small Claims Court is this highly accessible, super cost-effective system, and it's built specifically for the everyday person. It essentially strips away all the complex, intimidating rules of full civil litigation to make it so much easier for you to try your case without needing to hire a fancy lawyer. So here is our quick roadmap for today's explainer. 1. Welcome to small claims. 2. Preparing and filing your case. 3. Serving the defendant. 4. Getting ready for court. 5. Your day in court. And 6. Judgments and next steps. Let's start with Section 1. Welcome to small claims. We'll quickly cover eligibility and the basic rules. The absolute golden rule of Colorado small claims is this monetary jurisdictional limit, $7,500. Crucially, this limit excludes interest and court costs, so your actual underlying damages cannot exceed this amount. If they do, you basically have to either waive your right to the rest of the money or go file in a higher court. There is, however, scratch that, there's one major exception to this rule. Claims that arise from residential construction defects. Those can exceptionally go up to $25,000 under the state's Construction Defect Action Reform Act. So the really crucial point here is that this system is strictly for monetary relief. You can absolutely sue for unpaid wages, a dishonored check, a broken contract, things like that. But you absolutely cannot use small claims court for evictions, for slander or libel, criminal matters, or for injunctions, meaning you can't ask the court to force someone to do something, like, say, take down a fence. It is all about the money. Moving right along to Section 2, preparing and filing. Let's talk about building your case. Filing your case follows 3 very clear, very simple steps. Step 1, you have to identify the correct county court. Usually this is going to be where the defendant lives, where they work, or where the actual event, like a car accident or a contract signing, took place. Step 2, you need to fill out the Notice, Claim, and Summons form, which is officially known in Colorado as JDF 250. It's a multi-part form where you'll just give a plain language statement of what your claim is. And Step 3, you just pay your filing fee. And you know what's brilliantly empowering about this whole process? It's how affordable it actually is. Filing fees are incredibly low. They run just $31 for claims under $500 and $55 for claims all the way up to that $7,500 maximum. Plus, if you're indigent and truly cannot afford that fee, waivers are available if you qualify. This really ensures the court system remains accessible to absolutely everyone. Now, before you even think about filing, you need hard evidence. Colorado courts evaluate the conduct of both parties, so you need proof. You've got to gather photos, invoices, and yes, even those passive-aggressive text messages or Venmo receipts. And here is a massive pro tip that is absolutely vital. Always, always make 3 copies of every single document. 1 for you, 1 for the magistrate, and 1 for the defendant. I'm telling you, being organized like this will literally make or break your case. All right, Section 3, serving the defendant. Let's get into proper notification. Once you file, you must complete what's called service of process. This isn't optional. It's a strict jurisdictional prerequisite. Basically, it means you must legally notify the defendant that they're being sued. A neutral third party, like a sheriff's deputy or a private process server, has to successfully deliver the lawsuit to the defendant at least 15 days before your trial date. If you fail to do this correctly, your case is likely going to be delayed or just outright dismissed. Now, this brings up a really common case-killing trap, and that's when you're suing a business. If you're suing a corporation or an LLC, you can't just walk in and hand the paperwork to some random teenager working the front cash register. No way. You must search the Colorado Secretary of State website to find the business's official registered agent. That is the specific person legally authorized to accept your lawsuit on the company's behalf. Section 4, getting ready for court. We're talking preparation and timelines. You also need to be prepared for what's called a counterclaim. There's a great example from the U.S. Air Force Legal Office Handbook that perfectly illustrates this. Imagine a totally ruined wedding reception. The bride, Anne, sues a caterer to get her $2,000 deposit back. Makes sense, right? But the caterer can actually file a counterclaim arising out of the exact same event, telling the court they did do their job and asking the magistrate to make Anne pay the remaining $2,000 balance. The takeaway here, you must be prepared to defend your own actions, not just attack the defendants. You also need to keep a very close eye on this procedural timeline. While a formal demand letter isn't technically legally required 30 days out, magistrates absolutely love to see them. Notice that 15-day service deadline we just discussed? But here is a massive, game-changing detail, the 7-day attorney notice. Look, small claims is designed for everyday people without lawyers. But if a defendant wants to bring an attorney, they must notify the court 7 days before trial. And if they do that, it legally gives you the right to bring an attorney too.
Okay, Section 5, your day in court. What to actually expect.
First things first, take a breath. There are no juries in small claims courts, and you definitely don't need to jump up and dramatically yell objection like you're on a TV show. Instead, a magistrate is going to hear your case in a much more relaxed setting. It's designed specifically for self-represented individuals to just clearly tell their story without getting totally bogged down in complex legal rules. When it's finally your turn to present, follow these courtroom tips really closely. Rely on those 3 sets of organized notes and evidence copies you prepared earlier. Speak clearly and organize your story chronologically. You have to stay incredibly calm, even if the other side says things you completely, vehemently disagree with. Always direct your answers directly to the magistrate. Never argue with the defendant. And remember, the magistrate's time is super limited, so stick strictly to the facts. And finally, Section 6, Judgments and Next Steps. How to actually enforce the outcome. Here is the single biggest misconception about this entire process. Like literally, the number one thing people get wrong. The court cannot and will not collect your judgment for you. If you win, the magistrate basically gives you a piece of paper saying, yes, you are legally owed this money. The court does not write you a check, and they don't automatically pull funds from the defendant's bank account. You have to enforce it yourself. But hey, don't worry. You have some seriously powerful legal tools to enforce that judgment. If they refuse to pay, you can file for wage garnishment, which means taking up to 20% of their disposable income. You can even place a lien on their real estate, which lasts for a whopping 20 years. And your judgment itself remains legally valid for at least 6 years. And during that whole time, it accrues a very healthy 8% annual interest. Getting a solid grip on this whole process requires great information, right? Resources like the U.S. Air Force Academy Legal Office Small Claims Handbook are just fantastic. They provide really easy-to-understand, general background information to prep you for navigating this legal landscape. We highly recommend reviewing similar state-specific resources as you build out your own case. Now, I do need to leave you with a quick but vital disclaimer. This explainer serves as a general roadmap. It is absolutely not a substitute for formal legal counsel. Laws vary, statutes of limitations shift, and every single case has its own unique facts. Always, always seek advice from a qualified attorney for specific legal concerns, especially if your case starts getting complicated. But for standard disputes, the system is totally there for you. Now that the Colorado small claims process has been demystified, you have the practical tools to take action. From gathering your evidence all the way to enforcing a judgment, you hold the roadmap. But, it begs a much bigger question. If the legal system made this level of justice so accessible for small claims, what other everyday legal rights are you leaving on the table just because the process seems a little too intimidating? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and good luck out there.